We are live and back for another season of Australian Survivor Blood vs. Water. It has been somewhat of a long wait, but finally it's back on our screen. Some old in Survivor with Sandra Dow's Twine returning, but also some new castaways as well. And here to talk about it with me today is my co-host, Robin the Inwit. Robin, how are you?
Good. I'm great. Grand. How are you?
Very well, thanks. And we've also got a very, very special guest today, that being the lovely Peridiam, Survivor YouTuber. Peridiam, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you think of the season so far.
Thank you for having me, by the way, Riley. Okay. I have a YouTube channel. I cover Survivor and Big Brother, and yeah, I make weekly videos, either Survivor, Big Brother video, mostly US based, US Survivor, but I have occasionally dipped into Australian Survivor. Definitely more recently, I think like 3 of the maybe last 4 or 5 videos I've had have been heavily featuring Australian Survivor content. So I've been slowly wanting to incorporate more of it as it has more content to talk about. Yeah, that's what I do. You can find me on YouTube and I guess on Twitter. And as far as this season goes, I've really enjoyed this opening week, these 3 episodes. Probably more, it's been a while. I think probably more than last year or the year before that, with All Stars or Brains versus Brawn. So I think it's off to a good. I also think episode 3 was probably my favorite of the 3. Of the 3 episodes that we got this week. I think I liked it the most, although it's also super recent. Like I just finished watching it less than half an hour ago as of recording this. So I enjoyed it. It was a fun episode. It was my favorite of the 3 so far. So maybe there's also that ending on a high note while I'm talking to you guys, but I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, and we'll discuss all. Yeah.
Yeah, go. You go.
Yeah, we'll discuss all 3 episodes today. And yeah, as Robin was just saying there, a really, really strong start. All 3 episodes have had blindsides at this point. And I think Sandra alluded to it in episode 3 at Tribal Count. She said, if there's one thing I know about Australian Survivor, it's that Australians love blindsides. And that's certainly been the case this week. Yeah, Robin, you were saying there's such a strong start. What do you think has made it such a strong start?
Day 2 wasn't a blindside.
Maybe not Brianna.
No, Bree was not a blindside in the slightest. Bree was an idiot. No, sorry. That was she deserved to go home. Unfortunately.
Yeah,
and I think the first one and the last one blindsides.
Yeah, I think with Brianna, her arc for a little bit there was a little bit of a messy one. And we have seen some messy gameplay so far from players like Chrissy and David as well. But yeah, certainly for Brianna, just playing the game too strong out of the gate, it's not a good idea for her. And we'll obviously get into Brianna later. But first of all, I mean, we started the first episode, the premiere, obviously with the beautiful cinematics that we always get with Australian Survivor. And Peridiam, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Australians and Americans and our relationships in recognizing who different Americans are, but a lot of the cast seem to think that Sandra was actually talk show queen Oprah Winfrey.
Well, I mean, you know, it's Oprah, Sandra Diaz Twine. It's basically the same person at this point. Oprah won Survivor twice too. It's hard not to recognize that.
And Sandra gives away a lot of cars.
She's the queen of daytime. Yeah, right. Exactly. The queen of daytime television is back. So I actually was it how many did a lot of them think that it was Oprah, or was it? I know one person.
Comment.
I know.
Yeah,
I think it was one person, and then it caught on. But no, people quickly realised it was Sandra. And I think a unique thing about Australian Survivor is, while US Survivor does have a massive following in Australia, a lot of those people would have only watched the Australian version of the show. And then, of course, you do have your diehards who have been watching since Borneo or, Panama or wherever they picked up watching. So Sandra is certainly recognizable. And we've got a couple of people in the chat here. Joe asking if Sandra will win or not. And it's a bit early to tell. What are we thinking so far? Can Sandra win for a 3rd time? I'm pretty doubtful.
Nah, I'd love her to. I reckon Nina could be a hot favorite. Give the princess the crown.
I would bet more on Nina than Sandra. I mean, it's sort of like just like Winners at War. If you saw Winners at War in the US a couple seasons ago in 2020, it's like, Sandra can win, but I feel like Sandra wins when the target is not on her back. Like the 2 times that she won the game was when she was not known for being Sandra Diaz Twine in a way. Like the first time, obviously, she had no reputation. Second time, she was vastly overshadowed by so many other people. when you put that on, when you give her the like that mantelpiece, that 2-time winner status, and now she's like the only American. I don't know. It just feels like a long shot.
Why is my camera's gone blurry? The problem I had early on with what we did, what the production have done, and it's mentioned there, we let her come in, or we let them both come in on a helicopter. Like, why? She's already like, I get it. I get it's for us, the audience, but she's already has the biggest target on her back. Like, why make it harder for her? Give her a chance.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder what, like, I wonder how she felt. I'm guessing, I don't know.
Look,
like, I'm like,
she's
Sandra really
getting
relishes
paid.
the, right. I'm like, she kind of relishes that kind of stuff. Like in the last, after Game Changers and Winners at War, she's really like loves to don the crown. So I'm like, go figure. She's like, now I get flown in a chopper. It kind of feels like almost like she might have requested it or something, but
Yeah,
nonetheless,
she's playing the role. She plays her role well as well. And
she does.
She's
Yeah.
perfect. She's the perfect cast for that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I do think Sandra will come into this season as a bit of a chameleon, and I actually think her strongest game she's ever played was in Game Changers. I think that was her best game, simply because she was willing to make moves, and I think she's going to kind of make a blend of her Game Changers and Winners at War game and her Heroes vs Villains game. I can see her kind of blended into the background, but also making some big moves at the same time. And as Jenny mentioned here, Sandra has already beaten Russell's Australian record. She's now officially the queen, the American queen of Australian Survivor, and also the queen of US Survivor.
The bar
lasting
could not be
longer
lower
than Russell.
Yeah, the bar could not be lower. First Tribal Council, has an idol, still doesn't last. Yeah. Good for Sandra though. Hey, you know what? It's something. At the end of the day, that's like a rivalry that's gone back 10 years and
Yeah,
it's coming back. So maybe we'll get a
she's
season
got
on
to keep it
Australian
going.
Survivor.
Yeah, I do think that's all she wanted out of Australian Survivor, was just to beat Russell. I think if she wins a third time, or Nina wins, that'll just be icing on the cake. But really, for Sandra to beat Russell, it's a big feather in her cap.
Look, if she can get, like, and we're seeing in the chat, if she can get to merge, I'll be a very happy super fan. Like, if I can just see her the whole way through. You know, we didn't get much of her in season 40 where she just said, this isn't for me, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
If only
fair.
she said, like, I heard in the preseason, she like was going to the gym and was being a little more physical and working out more for Australian Survivor, knowing that it's a little bit more of a physical game than the US versions, which are half the time, I think, puzzles or like standing still holding something. I wonder if she had trained more, she could have like lasted and maybe kept the like she said, she left the Edge of Extinction because she just knew that it was a waste of time. I'm like, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But I wonder if she could have toughed it out and gone the at least 35 days or whatever. But
Yeah.
oh well.
Yeah, that's right. It's certainly, I think Sandra is one player that wants to take new experiences, but part of that new experience is actually bringing her daughter onto the show, Nina, who, as you mentioned, Robin, I think I don't think she can win. I think she's similar to Sandra in that neither of them are going to win because they're just
She'll
playing
get bloody
too hard,
close.
and
She'll get
Australians
close, I
don't want an
reckon.
American to win. But Nina, so far, especially in that first episode, it's clearly in her blood. I don't know what the Diaz twins have injected in their blood, but honestly, Jeff Probst and Mark Burnett must have put some super serum in them to make these super survivor players, because Nina knows how to play the game. And straight away, when she gets to the water camp after helping her tribe win reward and they get fire from that reward, she's straight into the game and already plotting away. What did you guys think of Nina's game starting out early?
I loved it. I thought, like, her premiere episode, I tweeted, I was just like, that I did not know what to expect with Nina. I'm like, we've seen Blood versus Water in the US, and sometimes like the relatives of other players, more quiet, I think, more often than not, because they don't have the experience. She feels like she's playing Survivor for the second time almost on her first time.
Yeah.
And I feel like she's been like helped a lot by Sandra, like coached on what to do and how to do it. And I think she's pretty much doing it she's doing it really well. It looks like she's doing really well so far.
And I also feel like she fell when the tribes were split. They brought them in on a chopper, great, but they did give them the best advantage. So Sandra is in her tribe, she has the best chance, whereas Nina has the best chance in the water tribe that she's been placed in as well, because she's got bigger threats there of our more, I don't know, I'd say Mark is a bigger threat than Sam when you split up our returnees. Andy, definitely a bigger threat than Kate again. So that gives Nina a bit of a chance to not be blown out straight away. And then on the reverse side, you have people who you've got a Chrissy who has never seen an episode of any Survivor. So Sandra can have a bit more space to breathe.
Yeah,
I think yeah.
I was
Go
just
for it,
thinking,
Peridiam.
like the fact that Chrissy was like, "I just learned what the word blindside is." I was just like, "Oh my god!" Like I don't. This is like Borneo levels of like player right here. I kind of love it. It's so unique and different. Like you
she's
never
great.
get that. But it just made me laugh. I was like, "Oh, that's really classic." So you get that in
and
2022.
you do get that with Australians. Yeah,
Oh,
you do get that with Australian Survivor at times. And of course, Chrissy did call it tribunal council, I think, in her opening confessional as well. She's a bit clueless, but she seems to be starting to settle in. And that's one of the things we saw in that first episode at the water camp. Obviously, Shael found that idol clue, and Chrissy found one as well. The idol being planted on the podium. Peridiam, I'm sure you've seen Survivor South Africa, Philippines. We saw something similar in that season. And of course, something a little bit similar, but it didn't turn out the same way in Winners at War with Adam Klein as well. I love having idols on podiums, idols in different spots, and I've heard some people talking about this strategy behind picking up that idol, and I think it's unique in this season where both Shael and Chrissy had the clue to the idol. They both knew it was on the podium, so I think it makes it a lot harder to actually create a diversion around that. But how would you go about trying to pick that idol off the podium? Or would you even do it? Would you want to pay such a massive target on your back on the first tribal council?
Well, so like one thing I didn't know about it, but I think they left it on the cutting room floor was that it had to be played that tribal. It was only good for the first tribal council of the season, which explains
Why
a
did they
lot.
tell us that? Yeah, that changes everything.
That changes like my perception of Chrissy and the other two running for it. Because I was like, why are they so desperate? Like, if you don't feel like you need to pin a target, obviously you don't want, like, maybe they didn't want her to have it or whatever, so maybe you lunge for it. But I'm like, well, you know, it's the first tribal council. They're already like tripping over each other, and then like Chrissy, so it just explained a lot. I was like, oh, but they didn't tell us that. Interesting. That's a detail that would have been nice to know.
That's really important, because I was like, why don't you just wait to the end? Just wait, and when they walk away, grab it when they walk away. Stupid. That's such an important detail that we need to know.
I think it really changes, like, it changes the whole dynamic. It changes the gameplay. It changes like what your strategy might be. So like if I knew it was only good for one tribal council, that would I would definitely not go for it if I felt like I was in good, because it's only good for one tribal. It's not a threat to me after tonight. So I don't really have to worry about it. Even if somebody else gets it, like if I'm okay with my alliance, I'm good socially, whatever, like I'm not that worried. It's a dead toy at that point. Just let it go. So I don't know if I would actually, I would say more often than not, like if I were to have it happen like 100 times, I would probably not go for it most of the time, assuming everything's okay. You know, if you're Chrissy or like David or something, maybe you might need it, and then you just bum rush it, right? You get that right when you sit down, you stand up and you go and pick it up. But I feel like if you need that day one idol, you're probably in like a lot more hot water than needing, like, that idol is, you're probably in a lot more trouble than you might think. So
yeah, that idol isn't going to save you very long. You get by one vote and then you're out probably the next week.
Which is like, that's what we're going to see with next episode 4 with Dave? Is that?
Yeah. That's I think the same. If he needs to avoid a tribal council for a little while and let the heat cool off quite a bit, because who wants to work with him now?
Yeah. I do think Dave is in an interesting spot, and obviously he's alienated his closest ally and Sam, which is something that isn't going to bode well for him in the future. It does look like in the previews there will be some sort of a twist, so I do wonder whether we'll get maybe a very, very early tribe swap, something like that. But I think for David, his days are certainly numbered. And where does David go from here? What is his strategy, assuming there is no tribe swap and he has to play it along? Who can he align with at this point, and try to weasel his way through to the merge, or at least a tribe swap?
Sandra?
The one person that he was
I don't know about that.
Neither, but yeah, I don't think he's got. I think he's really, really, especially in the terms of how Australian Survivor operates. He can only ally himself with the fact that the game might give him a saving grace. There might be a non-elimination. There might be a mix. There might be something. But I don't know. I don't see like if he has to win he has to win immunity challenges. That's to get enough heat off the back so they forget and other conflicts emerge.
Pray for like immunity run with his tribe and then a swap or something, and he's like suddenly, and he's like a pivotal vote for like the other alliance or something like that. I think he's probably on his way to hanging out with Brianna. I think we're gonna go 2 for 2 potentially, and like seeing two pairings out the door instantly. This is like the opposite with like Survivor Blood versus Water in season 27. They had like the loved ones were picked off, and it turned around and it turned into an advantage for these single players, which turned into like the dominant alliance at the merge. And in this case, it's like that's currently not looking like it's going to pan out that way. It looks like we're going to have some strong pairings, at least going into like the week 2. So.
Yeah, that's right. And I do find it interesting the way the gameplay has changed. And as you mentioned, I would say Kate, Kate has obviously gone home. David is a good chance to go home as well. I do think it's interesting that people aren't, bringing in someone like David or a Kate as extra numbers now that they don't have any other affiliation in the game. It is a good option to bring them in and, create a family of 3 or a family of 4. Bring in these singles and, add them to your alliance when they've got nothing else in the game.
It's just early.
I do find it interesting,
especially in like the Australian 48, 50 odd days we're playing for. It's just it's just early to have this one floater that's kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and you've got to drag that person so many days. So it's a long drag, heavy drag.
Do you? I was thinking. I was just because I just finished the episode. I'm like, was Dave's performance in episode 3 like one of the single-handedly worst performances I've ever seen in Survivor? Like, I don't know if they just misguided me into thinking that he was in a better spot than he was. I didn't really have a good read on him up until this episode, but it just felt like everything just fell apart by the end of the episode for him. And it felt like a lot of it was his own doing, his own paranoia, between lying about the idol, getting caught, revealing the idol, which proved he wasn't trustworthy in the first place. I'm like, were they snowing him a little bit into wanting to blindside him? Or was that the change of plan? Getting 8 out of the 12 votes, not getting his target out in Sandra that he was pushing for all afternoon. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I was like, was he already on the fringe? He was already on the outside. He was number 7, 8, 9 in the pecking order. He was at the bottom, and they just he eventually got pushed up because of his paranoia, or was it like his own doing? And he's
like
now
father, like daughter.
Yeah, he honestly a little
had the
same wavelength, same approach. I think she was the bigger fan of the show anyway. So
she was the fan. He wasn't. So his mistakes look crazier than Bree's do because he just did not understand from what I can see.
Yeah, I do think both of the good childs, Brianna and David, they were really paranoid players. Obviously, I think they went way too hard out of the gate, which, a lot of people that have watched Australian Survival would know that's never a good idea. Unless you're George and you can skate by 50 days being the biggest target, but still somehow manage to survive. There really is no way out. If you paint a target too early, you play too hard at the beginning, you're going to get caught up eventually. And it's not going to work out for you. And I think Brianna and David were just playing such a paranoid game that it was the safe option to get rid of both Brianna and to put the votes on David.
I don't know if it's just playing too hard, because it's just about playing smart. Like Nina, she's playing hard and she's playing very, very clever. It's just it's about that. So they had no social awareness of what their impacts of what everything they did would impact the rest of the tribe. So I think it's more the paranoia over playing too hard, even though there's this conception, misconception that in Australian Survivor, because it's so many days, you can't play as hard as you can in American Survivor, but you just got to play smarter. Like Nina is doing amazing.
Do you think Dave made the wrong move dealing with Khan at the reward? When he decided to handle the idol, and he basically was like, "I'm out here for revenge. Screw you. I'm not going to help you. We're not on the same." I'm like, do you have this super idol? Very, very powerful, incredibly powerful, even more powerful
wasted
than the
usual. In a day.
Right, like already wasted his superpower idol. He said he referred to Khan as like a grenade that he was rolling into the other camp. But I'm like, but I don't know if that really was the case, because Khan just went in and just was like, I got the idol.
He didn't give me anything. He's a jerk.
He kind of just screwed me over. He doesn't really like any of us. I have an idol, so he probably has an idol. He has an idol. I don't know what he's doing with it. So I'm like, half the cast knows he has an idol, which he's lied about. Now I'm just like, gosh, this is really not like, I don't know. This is just really one step, like every step of the way. I'm like, he's just sinking his ship. That grenade, I don't
When
think
you
he
play
rolled
with
it the right way.
emotion, you've made the wrong move. And he played with emotion.
Right. And I think the other the tribe mate were like, he's very trustworthy, or at least he's predictable, I think, is his biggest asset, which is not great for him, but it helps. His smarter players will look at you and say, we can tell where he's going, what he's going to do. But also he's got an idol, which I guess can be threatening. And I don't know, it's early in the season. So maybe we'll just have to get rid of him now and just cut him loose. Cause he's also unpredictable in that, like, he's going to burn. He's very emotional, and emotions are sometimes irrational, and you don't know what you're going to do with that.
Yeah, predictability and paranoia. Predictability is a great thing, but paranoia is another, and that can soon create a cyclone, and it's all up in the air. So not the best, player to play with, and I think Andy was in a similar situation there. He found himself leading the charge on the water camp rather, early on at the very beginning. But everything just caught up to him. I think Mark and Nina knew how to play the game.
Actively opted for that.
Yeah,
he went in and said, I'm going to be the leader. That was the most foolish thing he could ever have done.
Yeah, I'm surprised a super
someone
fan.
who's a super fan. Yeah. He's a super fan.
I guess he just let it get to his head. He just
the ego.
He felt like, I could do this. They're not going to vote me out. He's seen returning players play with new faces, and it usually works out. So maybe he felt like, you've seen like Aussie coach Rob, not so much Russell, but he's not Russell. You see him come back and they're like, oh, well, I'll be the leader. We'll rally around. I know what I'm doing. Trust me on this one. And then, it just doesn't work out for some reason.
Yeah, Mark and Nina certainly took the right approach to it. Obviously, Mark being a returning player, and Nina obviously having a big target on her back as Santa's daughter.
Mark's really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think Mark is playing a great game compared to his first game. Obviously, now that he's not loved up with Sam, and Sam's in another tribe, he is playing a really good game, and I think he recognizes to step away and not paint that target on his back like Andy had. But Mark's also an invaluable member in challenges as well, which we've seen. I do think Mark, out of all the returnees at this stage, has the best chance to win.
And Mark and Nina are doing really, really well. Now I feel like that they might be 1 and 2 towards the end. But Andy, you can argue Andy's challenge as well. The one thing that I will only give credit for as far as his Survivor game for with Andy is his brilliance in Survivor style challenges, throwing a little sandbag in a hole, or he's great at that. So you can argue that he is an asset for challenges, but everything else, he just.
I wonder if like also his reputation from his previous season was like he was the super fan, like snake archetype, like super just a little bit unpredictable, and you don't really know what he lied about his profession and this, that, and the other. So like carrying that in, maybe he didn't shake that as well. And also, having a player like, I guess like honestly getting paired with Nina, and she's got a lot of that Sandra Diaz Twine energy. She immediately was like snuffing the snake out of his hole, and was just like, yeah, let's cut the head off right now. Like, don't give him any momentum. I mean, I don't know if he's capable of doing much, but clearly he will never know. So I don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't be getting him back for a third time.
Yeah, I certainly think with Water Tribe as well, we did. Yeah, who knows? And Andy's potential, I think, in the game, he is such a. I think he's similar to David. He is a paranoid player. And, as much as he knows the game, as soon as something goes against him, everything just snowballs from there and he loses control. And I think he was never going to find his footing, especially against players like Mark and Nina, to find a place in the game. He doesn't have the social understanding behind him, I think, to go far like a Sandra or a Nina would.
And he missed that prime opportunity of, we've got Alex as an easy vote. That means when you have the easy vote, you have so much space to move without anybody watching. It's so easy. We're going to get rid of the injured guy or girl. Easy. Get rid of them. They're useless to the tribe. That's your time. And he was just like, yeah, cool. We don't have to worry about anything. Day one, happy days. This guy can't move. He tweaked his back. It's going to heal up. The muscles will relax over a day or two. He'll be fine. It's It's such
Yeah,
a
I
weird.
thought it was a bit surprising to see a returning player and a super fan both choose to be the leader and also choose to like rest on the easy
Yeah.
votes when it's like you
Mhm.
also know that you're dealing with other returning players on your tribe in Mark. I mean, he's not the most strategic or whatever. I don't remember. I actually don't really remember him too well from his season. I know he was voted out pretty early, so I don't remember like
He was
what
pretty
strategic
forgettable.
chops. Yeah, like that's the thing. Him and Sam, I was like, I think Sam was maybe a little more strategic, but I don't remember Mark ever being much of a threat or anything like that. He just was whatever in the minority. But I'm like, and then you're dealing with Nina, and I guess he underestimated her because she was very much at the front of a lot of this in the premiere episode. But I'm just like, you're coasting when you really should be setting yourself up for the next few weeks,
Yeah.
especially in Australian Survivor where it goes on for a long time. Like you just can't rest on like an easy vote because the guy's injured. They're like the social game prevailed as it usually does, and he's like, oh yeah, we'll just get rid of him because he's physically can't compete in the next challenge or whatever. I was very dumbfounded by like that mentality, and I was like, you're giving everyone else the prime opportunity to do something crazy, and they completely flipped it on him. Which
Yeah.
deservingly
So, you know, in
yeah.
my eyes, deserving to be the first boot. If you're coming
I
in
really
with that
think
reputation,
right, that's
it's
what I was saying. Like his reputation he preceded him, and I think he just didn't do enough in the time he had to change that, and it allowed the other players to be like, we know what he's like. We've seen him before. He's a returning player. Like, let's just do it now. Cut the head off.
Yeah,
get it over with.
easy.
He won't see it. I don't think he did.
Yeah, I think we saw something similar with Brianna and the way Brianna was playing. While she wasn't as paranoid as Andy, I think she lacked that social capital in the game. We saw she was really tight with Shael, but other than that, she didn't have too many strong relationships. Whereas Chrissy, on the other hand, being the alternative vote in episode 2, Chrissy had that relationship with the likes of Alex and Mark and Nina and Khan. Chrissy has built her social capital, whereas Brianna, I think, went out as a result of, again, paranoia was a big windfall against her, but also not building those social relationships and really banking on a relationship with Shael, which ultimately didn't pan out because Shael found an idol and kept it to herself, which was a smart move on Shael's part.
Oh yeah, I don't know why you'd ever drop that one on that. That's the ship that's gone. That's sinking. Why would you save that? She's not helping you in the slightest. I'm glad like Khan was able to go, cool, let's keep that idol away from Bree, because that would have been disastrous for them.
I thought Shay did a very good job in the second episode with her handling of a sinking ally in the early game. It's like this isn't this. I don't know. Like if you're in an underdog position very early on, I feel like especially in Australian Survivor with the larger cast and the longer season, you're really in a bad spot, especially knowing you're probably not going to see a swap most likely for, I don't even know, 5-6 episodes. Doing your best to ingratiate yourself back in the majority worth way more than
100%.
like losing an ally at day 5,
and day 5 ally is still just a friend. We just like each other at the moment. There's no strategy talking, very rarely. Like, I mean, Shay probably hasn't really talked much strategy. We haven't seen much strategy talk go on. I mean, Sandra mentions it. Like usually American Survivor, there is strategy from day one, but here we're all hugging each other, having a good old time. Strategy is a slow burn.
Right. I think Shay did a great. I was really impressed by the fact. I didn't see exactly what she did, or I don't know if she's talked a lot about. Yeah, maybe she will next time they go to tribal or something. Like we'll see more of her strategy or what she's doing as like this. She was sort of at the bottom at the beginning, and her and Brianna. But the fact that like she didn't get any votes that tribal. There was no split vote. They didn't try to flush the idol. And she really didn't. It really felt like the smart thing to do was to just cut Brianna, which she did. She voted for her. So I'm like, I'm really impressed. Like, I don't know exactly what conversations were had with who's. It feels like we're dealing with a lot of huge majorities at the moment. But for her to ingratiate herself back after what looked like could have been a really bad start, could have been a Brianna start. I could see her going the distance, going really far at the moment.
Yeah, she's doing pretty well.
I do think Shael is definitely one of the strong contenders. I'd say Mark and Shay are definitely up there in terms of winner picks at this stage. And I don't want to make anything too early, but I think with Shay compared to Brianna,
go on, commit.
She did have that. we're going to talk about that later in the show.
Okay.
But I think
I was
with
about to say
Shael,
something too, so we'll save it.
yeah, with Shael, she's built that social capital, and we saw her at the beginning of the second episode with that little yoga class. And while it's a little thing, I can actually see that as, you know, the tribe like being around her. They like having someone like her around camp, and that really helps. You know, being that light of the camp helps early on in the game to build those relationships and those alliances which you can build later down the track. And as you guys were saying, a 5-day alliance with Brianna is not worth it when you consider, you know, everything else in the tribe. Hold on to that idol, continue to build those relationships, and if it gets flushed out, it gets flushed out. But do everything you can to stay in the game. Don't hang your hat on one person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I am frustrated with the fact that for her anyway, she finds the clue with Bree. Someone knows that knowledge. Great that it's done and dusted. But now she finds this pole with the giant, with the clue or the idol way up in this tree that now everyone's around. I'm a big fan of no one knowing you've got an idol. Like, I think that's so important. The idol loses a lot of its power once people know. So I feel like go hide that pole somewhere else, keep your calm, and come back when no one's around. I don't know. People just, we give out too much information so quickly.
People are eager. They
Yeah.
people either love to gossip or they love to, I don't know. They pounce too early. Timing, like the best players will tell you, timing is everything in Survivor. And whether it's like that physical in finding idols or certain things in challenges, or social timing and strategic, like knowing who to talk to and when, and like what to say, like, and so just finding idols is another part of the game that I think doesn't get talked about enough. But like, yeah, timing your idol hunts, and like if you find stuff like that, like I think of like Ty on Survivor Co Wrong, if you've seen it, like season 32, like he had to find an idol in a tree. Nobody caught him.
Yeah.
He scraped up there. He was bleeding
Yeah.
on the tree. I don't think anyone knew about that as far as I remember. And so
he had 2, didn't he? He had 2 without anyone knowing.
He did in Game Changers. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, he's found
on both
like
seasons.
5 idols
On both seasons.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just like, yeah, like Brianna, again, it's just like a huge super fan folly. You go too hard, too fast out of the gate.
Yeah.
Should have chilled for a minute. I don't know. I was like, oh, she's got like this massive pole. I guess they gave her the pole, and there's a hook on the tree, so they put the hook there. I'm like, but still, like, I don't know if anyone's gonna find that. Maybe it was more noticeable and similar to like the episode 1 idol at the podium. Like you just jump and go for it. I don't know, but
I mean, if you hide the pole somewhere else, sure,
right?
Then they're gonna watch this pole. Then you've kind of get a bit of a diversion or something if you could. But yeah, it just sucks
use the
that she's got this
information.
idol.
Use the information that it's an idol. Maybe you don't need the idol. Maybe you can win allies and let them get the idol in their own time. And then you've got, I mean, I don't know, like that clearly.
Or throw a target. Let that person get the idol to put the target on.
That's another great thing. A diversion. Get somebody else. Tell somebody who's not as well ingratiated in the tribe, get that idol. And then all of a sudden, like, we got to get that person out. Like, especially if they can't get it because they don't have a pole or whatever. I don't know. Hide the pole. But
Yeah, I do wonder. I don't think it's going to work too much against Shael, because I feel like the value of an idol in Australian Survivor has almost been diminished a little bit, I think, because everyone's getting idols at this point, and they're playing them so quickly. I don't think they'll view Shael as too much of a threat unless she goes along, builds all these strong social relationships, builds an army, and then it gets to the final 6 and she still has that idol. At this stage, I don't think it's too big of a deal for her to hold an idol. They might flush it out, or they might wait until the tribe swap and say, you know, let's use this together.
It's not a big deal.
It is obviously, she can't keep that secret, and it would be nice. It would be nice to have had no one spot it. Yeah. As you say, it doesn't give her as much power, but I still think it's not the biggest deal at the end of the day, and she can come back from this. And I think it can play to her advantage.
Oh yeah, she's not in a bad situation. I just feel like it's sad that she's got this idol and it's kind of lost a lot of its potency. It's now more of a defensive.
It could
idol.
prove to be like a good bargaining with the rest of your tribe if you get to the swap, because the other tribe doesn't know that you guys have it, and it becomes more of like a swap tribe idol, possibly for an alliance of former blues. That's
a good way to use it offensively. Yeah, that's not bad.
I think that's one way to make sure that you can survive a certain part of the game. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm curious to see what she does with it, if it becomes a liability for her or not. But so far,
I don't think it will.
It just doesn't feel like she. I feel like it would have episode 2 if it was going to actually become a problem for her. The fact that she escaped with no votes is, I think, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing we haven't discussed just yet is we have discussed obviously David putting his foot in his mouth and playing a very paranoid game. But Sandra's name was the first one that was thrown out at that blood camp after they lost the immunity challenge. And Ben came straight to Sandra in the water and immediately told her what the plan was. Sandra is going home. Sandra has clearly built some strong relationships so far to have people come back and tell her what's going on and that she's on the chopping block, which is great from Sandra's point of view. How do you view her playing early on? Because she has said that she's willing to play Kumbaya at this point in the game if it means that she'll stay around for a fair while. How do you guys perceive her so far?
I think upped her game from, I guess, Winners at War for the most part. I think she's matching the tempo of Australian Survivor better than she has in returning. I mean, she did well in Game Changers. I won't take that away, but Winners at War was definitely like her worst performance. So see her, I've been impressed with her gameplay. She's very, very visibly shown. I think she's one of the most highlighted players thus far through the first week.
Yeah.
But it's given me a good impression. I'm like, this is the Sandra that we've seen win twice. This is the Sandra that commanded the pre-merge of Game Changers when she was the only 2-10 winner. I've loved what she's given us so far. And again, the fact that she managed to escape this vote with only one vote, a throwaway vote too. So it wasn't even like it was the plan at all. And she wasn't even taken. And even Dave voted Kate out, which I was surprised at because that could have tied the vote. I don't know what that would have looked like. I'm guessing Kate still goes in a tie.
Yeah,
vote
it was 3 to Kate, 1 to Sandra. So
right, and that was Dave. Yeah. Dave could have easily flopped, gone the other way.
And
made it a tie. I don't think that would have resulted in Sandra going. That's the hunch that I feel. So I've enjoyed her. I think she's playing pretty damn well considering she flew in on a helicopter.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, Khalid's mentioned it in the chat. She's only dropped out of one actual challenge, which we are known. If you are a fan of the game, Sandra doesn't do the challenges. She sits out as often as she can. This is not what she's trying to do. She's trying to blend in, and she's doing such a great such a great time of doing that for someone who's arrived on a helicopter, who's won twice, who is one of the biggest names next to possibly Boston Rob as far as all-time big players. I mean, they had Island of Idols. They had big statues of these two people.
She's had a massive statue made out of
her
face.
So she's playing so well. And she has, I guess, gone back to the basics and really gone, cool. How do I take this heat off me, take the target? And she's doing a great job. And I mean, even when Dave had the chance they sent Dave to go to the shop. At one point, they sent Sandra, and Sandra instantaneously is like, yeah, sure. You want to send me? I'll take it. I know I'll go because you've sent me. I haven't offered. I'm not offering myself to go, but you tell me to go. Sure, I'll go because I'm going to get an advantage there.
And I love that too. I love the decisiveness of her, like saying like, you know what, they want me to do it. I'll do it. I'm cool with that. Cause I'm like, you know what? I think she can turn this into an advantage for herself. And I think having more information is good. And she would have an idol, which would be interesting
and no one
to
would know about it.
And nobody would know. And I don't know what she would do with that, but still it would have been fun to watch. I liked it. And then Dave stepped up and intercepted that. And she's like, oh no, I don't love that. Like, you crossed me. Don't love that, Dave.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And she is trying to work with the alphas. That's so important. It's the biggest. Smart. Yeah. She needs as much shields as she can have. Those alphas are her biggest protection. She needs that.
And when she won, if you look at her 2 times winning, she was paired with the alphas on her tribe. Between Rupert, Boston
Rob.
And then in Game Changer, she took out the alpha, which she probably should have worked with Tony more than likely. Took him out instead, and that didn't help in some ways. I don't know if that was necessarily the cause of her demise, but I don't know if you guys knew, like her tribe on the swap in Game Changers threw the challenge to vote her out. Like that was super tragic. Because I agree with Riley that I think that was probably most impressive game of the 3. Of her 4. So like I've been very impressed to see what she's been doing this first week. I do hope that she continues. And while I also don't think she's going to win, I would love to see. She's never been a juror. I don't even know what that like. She's literally never been a juror. Played Survivor 4 times. I would love it if she can get there.
Yeah, I do think she has a great chance because, as you said, Billy, I think you summed it up perfectly. Sandra is matching the tempo of the Blood Tribe at the moment. She's aligning with the Alpha, she's aligning with Croc and Ben, and Jesse. She's got a good relationship with everyone at the moment. And yeah, she just needs to watch what everyone else is doing and not so much play a step behind, but play at the same pace as them. She doesn't want to go too hard out of the gate like a Brianna, but she also, doesn't want to fall behind like a Kate did. Kate didn't make any relationships, and that what was her downfall in the end. I do want to bring up the challenges because this season, obviously, it being blood versus water, we've seen a lot of oppositional challenges, a lot of Sandra versus Nina, Croc versus Chrissy. What have we thought so far about these challenges? Obviously, a lot of them are very physical, which Billy, I'm sure you enjoy seeing. The Australian Survivor challenges compared to the US Survivor challenges. I think really a cut above compared to the US. But what do we think about the oppositional challenges so far and seeing the blood versus water combo play out in the challenges? What do we think about that?
I mean, I think Australian challenges are just more fun in general. Like I never was big into the challenges in US Survivor when I first got into the show. I've never really been like, that's the one time where I tend to tune things out. So if they're going to start, like they started hiding advantages or idols, I was a little bit more perked up. And there are times I will say, like I've made a lot of these like hack videos and stuff like that. That has made me appreciate the challenges more. I've looked into like the methodology and like little things that the producers do and the rhyme and reason for why they pick certain challenges and where they place them in the season. But I still like the Australian ones because they're more just like the physicality is more exciting when there's more movement on the screen. It's just more fun to see. They have a lot of like variety in terms of what they do. Although they love to have like the axe chopping, which I find entertaining because you don't really get that much in the US. Like the straight up just massive axe. I'm like the star producers in the US would like never handle that sort of stuff. I love seeing that stuff. I do think like they do need to have a puzzle or two. Maybe not like the greatest puzzle. We had that balance. The block wasn't really a puzzle.
Yeah, we need a bit more puzzles.
I do think it would be good because there are players out there who are more mentally like focused on that part of the challenges. And I think that there's a lot that can be done with that part of the game. Like that's the one thing I would say with Australian Survivor. It does need to have more puzzles. I wonder if that's, I don't know. You guys would know better than I do if that's just more like in tune with like what the audience would like to see. They don't.
Yeah, I think the puzzles will most likely come down the line once we get to the merge. And I think at this stage they're very focused on building up that blood versus water matchup, having these physical matchups, like what we saw with Otis and Vetus in blood versus water, having that brother rivalry. And it looks like in the previews we're going to see Sumo at Sea come back. Which is obviously a great challenge. We all love to see it.
You need it for blood versus water.
Yeah, whether it's Coach Karate chopping Rupert or Vetus making Otis back down and then immediately taking him back out. I think it has so much to it that it adds another layer to it. It adds a rich flavor, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they match up these blood versus water pairs because it does seem like something they're going to prioritize this season is making sure that every challenge has some storyline behind it, which I love to see.
Mm-hmm.
I am a big fan of challenges. For anyone who has, which is pretty much no one here who's ever seen the 7 people who watch my YouTube channel. I'm a big Aussie fan. I love challenge beasts, so I do love them. But with the Australian Survivor, as much as I love them, they're innovative. Like I haven't seen rolling a barrel down a ramp before. I think that's awesome. Like they give something new. However, if I just go back to last season's brains versus brawns, there was no real challenges for the brains. We just need to really
so weird.
We do need to integrate that. Yeah. It's like you've given a tribe about their brain, and you have to chop down. We've got a professional wood chopper. And we've given them a chop. You got a chopper thing. There's nothing so we do need to really balance that out. But I think it's just, and for my reading of it, the production it's working right now. It's working. Survivor in this version for our audience, it's getting in good numbers, it's getting good ratings, and it's continually doing so. So I think there's a bit of a fear of what if we did bring in something else? They try and play it a bit safer just because it's working. Yeah. It's working.
If it isn't broken, don't fix it.
But I would love some bit more puzzles.
Or like maybe there's because I noticed like this last episode they had like a multi task thing. Maybe one of them is like a small puzzle or something. Or maybe it's something like they can. I don't know. I mean, I get like it's not vital. It's not a huge deal. It's not make or break for me in any way.
No,
But
it's not.
still,
It's not. But I
yeah.
would like a little bit of balance. Even though I love our
Yeah,
challenges. Our challenges are awesome. They do a really good job.
Yeah.
That said, would anyone know? So when they had to run all those bags up the mountain, up the hill, why didn't
Yeah.
they just stand in a chain and just pass them up? Do they have to run all the way? Does anyone know that? I'm like, just
it was probably
know.
a 1-by-1 relay, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it's something for Peridiam's 7.0, 8.0 challenge hacks. Maybe it'll come in the future.
Maybe. Well, 7.0 is coming, but it's not with that challenge. So I don't know. I think they probably had to do it individually though. Otherwise, it would have been real light. Yeah, you
I was
probably
like,
would have
just
seen that. happen.
It would be one of those unspoken rules, like how
Yeah,
Christian
that you're
broke
not
the
allowed
challenge
to.
in Uncomfortably Numb, how he had his back against it when he's not meant to.
Yeah.
Things like that aren't
Mhm.
spoken about. One question of fairness, Margaret Okada has brought it up in the chat. She's saying, I just want to be honest, I'm a bit happy that idol is gone, because if David stayed with that idol, a super idol could have potentially been in play. The super idol just seems so unfair. What are our thoughts on the super idol? Is it unfair to have in the game? What do we think about it? I wasn't the biggest fan in Ko Wrong, but I did like the way that Ty played it with Scott in Ko Wrong, and I was hoping we'd see something similar with Khan in this season. But I'm not a fan of having the super idol in the game.
Yeah. Do you want to go?
You go. Oh, sure.
Yeah,
You go. You go. I've gone blurry again.
Okay. So yeah, I've looked into this a lot, and like the Korong I found there are variations of the Super Idol. Apparently, I didn't realize this between Terry, Yule, Tony's, and the Korong one. The Korong was by far the most powerful of all of the iterations in 41 seasons of Survivor US. So to see it come back, I was like, oh, my gut reaction is always don't love it. Only because it is so powerful. Literally, it's 3 for 3, and whoever gets it gets to the final 3 every time, if not outright winning. And I don't think it's a spoiler at this point, but it's just like you're basically giving that player a punch to the finale. I mean, it might be different in Australian Survivor, and I don't know if it's been in past Australian seasons. I don't feel like it has the Super Idol.
No, we've had it.
Oh, you
Haven't we?
have?
Didn't we? Have just hasn't paid off.
Has it
But,
been
it definitely hasn't been played before.
Yeah,
because
okay.
I've never seen
I
it
don't
played.
remember
I've definitely never seen it be played, which is another problem. I'm like, it's not exactly a very exciting TV moment because it's after the votes, so it's like that doesn't. There's not a lot of suspense to it for the audience or for the player. Also, it just never gets played because once it's found out, it's just like a giant immunity shield forever, and you have to throw somebody at it like to get rid of it, which is like. I don't know. I don't love it. Maybe it would work better with more people on a cast, like an Australian Survivor. We have more people in general, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not exactly a big fan of like crazy, powerful twists like that. So I like that it can be broken up. I'm fine with regular idols. I think it's an interesting mechanic to have it be combined, but I don't like the Super Idol itself is just not the best TV in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd sit in the same sort of camp. It's one of those things where it's like I understand we're trying to throw these twists and trying to keep the game fresh, but in my opinion, and as we've seen in 41 just past, you don't need to force the twist. The best moments of that season were when the producers aren't trying to throw us down this path. They're not trying to give us that moment where Parvati pulls out 2 idols and blindsides even Russell. That happens naturally. So I get what they're trying to do, and I know I want them to keep trying. But as far as a super idol, just to be able to like I said, it's not as good television. You have to really focus on. All right, well, we've just got to outplay this super idol, or you have to maybe make it more incentive for them not to bring their idols back together. It's just a waste. It's a waste of a vote. It's like, cool, all right. I've got a super idol, so you all gang up on me, so I play it this week. But I'm not going to go home, and then you just get me home the next week, or get me out the next week. It's not.
I recently watched. There's a Twitch streamer that I've been following. He gets like around 10,000 average viewers, which is pretty big. And he's been watching Survivor, and I've been throwing seasons at him for his fan base to watch. They're all never seen Survivor before, and they watched both Panama and Cook Islands recently with the Super Idol. And I think by far and away, the most frustrating thing that he found, and by proxy, his chat of like 7, 8, 10,000 people was that like it got really boring. He was rooting hardcore for the I24 with the Super Idol in their pocket with Yule and Ozzy, but it became very much like, okay, yada yada yada, get it over with. Now they can't vote Yule out, they can't vote any of these players out because the Super Idol's in their pocket. Fast forward to when it's just them, and that kind of becomes the problem with Super Idol, is that it just doesn't shake up anything. It's once you have it on your side, you can't. It's just like you are permanently bolted into a super position. There's not much you can do about it. And if you're not like a player, like if you're like a Tony, maybe people will rebel against you because you're crazy and chaotic and people don't want you to have it. But for the most part, there's not much you can do, and that's why we've never seen anything happen against it. So I don't love the idea, but I like what you said, Robin, about like the producers trying something different, throwing something out there. Let I think it would have been interesting if they had found a different way to make it combine into something unique that wasn't the Super Idol. I don't know what it would be. Maybe they get like an extra vote if they combine their idol. They each get an extra vote or something random. I don't know. But like the Super Idol itself is just too powerful. And I say never bring it back. We saw it also in Healers, Hustlers in the first episode. Also didn't love it. It's just like, to my opinion, it's not a very good twist. So
yeah.
That's why I was happy when it got played. I was seeing David play his idol. I'm like, oh, thank God. You don't have to.
We don't have to worry about it.
It could come back in the future. You never really know. But that's one of the things with Australian Survivor. They love putting in big twists and advantages. And I think it's about time we discuss what we're thinking of the cast so far. There are some people like Melissa and Michelle who we haven't really met just yet. But obviously there are also some people who we have seen a lot of. And everyone in the chat, let us know who you think is going to win at this point so far, who your favorite players are as well. Peridiam, I'll start with you. Which, let's say, 3 players do you think are in the strongest position so far? It is early days, but which players do you think are playing a great game that could go long into the game and potentially see them crown the sole survivor?
Oh, wow. Okay. I was originally saying, like, who do I think is doing well now, but who do I think could also win might be a different story.
Let's go all the way.
Yeah, just picking all the way. So I also watch the show with my wife, and we always like to talk about who we think the winner picks are, especially early on. And she was not sure. I gave her who I think, and we were just talking about this last night. I think for me, I have my top 3 as being Mark, Nina, and Shay. And that is all, I think, on the Water Tribe. Is that all Water Tribe players?
We haven't seen much of the Blood Tribe, though, because of tribals.
I was like worried because I'm pretty much stacking who I think right now on one tribe because they've gone to tribal back to back. But honestly, even through this episode, it really did boil down to Sandra versus Dave. I feel like we're looking at what is going to be like how the Brains of last season sort of fell behind initially, but eventually prevailed in the end. I wouldn't be surprised if we get it might be more of like a mixture because it's blood and water and then they combine together and now it's like murky purple. But I also think like at the end of the day, there are 2 tribes. And I think the Water Tribe to me is looking more promising based on the players, the gameplay, what we're seeing from them from these first 2 episodes. And just like they're on some level, I find them a little more likable, a little more fleshed out. I think that goes a long way. So those are my top 3 in any order: Mark, Nina, and Shay.
Robin?
Well, Mark and Nina. I can't just say Shay because everyone else is saying Shay. I'm going to go Mark and Nina for sure. They're strong contenders, but I'm going to find someone over on the Bloods. Oh, look, I know she's not on the Bloods, but is she? Is Chrissy Blood?
She's
Chrissy's water.
She's water. I was going to say, because she could be like my wild card. She's got a very shiny personality, social
She'd
game.
Be fun.
I think she can go very far. Maybe, yeah. Look, I'm just going to go Mark, Nina, and a Chrissy for sakes. It's still blood. Still water, but just as a little fanboy, Sandra, if she could win it would be a joy, an absolute joy.
It would be an absolute dream. I almost feel it would be better to see Nina win just to see her take the crown. But Sandra winning 3 times would just be, it'd be. I can't even see it happening to be that good.
Yeah.
I would love just to see like the conversation post Sandra winning of like, okay, now she's won Australian Survivor. Is Tony still the better player? Would Tony still be considered better than Sandra? Because a lot of people would be like, oh my God, this is a
Yeah.
crisis. How
Yeah.
do I feel now? Because there's a lot of Tony fans out there and they're like, Tony's
There
definitely
are.
the best. You know,
Yeah,
so
it's
I love
always
Tony
it's always
too. I
hard to
just think it
compare.
would make for very
A big
interesting conversation.
discussion for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Sandra. I can see Sandra going to the merge, and I think we all agree that she is playing a great game so far. But
For
for me,
someone
in
with
terms of
such a
my
big
winner
target.
picks, yeah. Oh, she's such a big target, but she is playing. As Peridiam said, she's matching the tempo of the game so far,
Yeah.
and blending in with everyone else. For me, if I was to pick three players, I mean, I said it before, Shael and Mark are definitely playing the strongest game. If I was to put all my money on someone right now, to be Shael, I reckon. I think Shael is
Wow.
They give us a bit
she
of a
started
red
out
herring
she started
at
out
the end of the
very
episode, didn't they?
very tough. Being with Brianna, she was in that twosome, but I do think I can see her coming back, playing a very social game, similar to a Tyson in Blood vs. Water potentially. Maybe Ben gets cut off very very early, and Shael's maybe the one that lobbies all the singles to come together. I don't know. But I think Shael's playing a very good social game so far. So if I'm to pick three, I'll say Shael, Mark, and for something different, I like Khan at the moment, but I don't see him going all the way. I might say Michael Crocker. I might say Croc. Croc is someone that I can see. I can see him going deep in the game. He's a very strong player.
And he's likable.
He might get picked off.
Buttons.
He might get picked off early in the merge, but he does have. He does have that super fandom behind him. He knows the game well. And in fact, I'm pretty sure he was one of the first. I think Jesse recognized Sandra first. But Croc obviously knew who she was as well. So I'm going to put Croc as a bit of a wild card pick as a winner. But yeah, for me, Shael, Mark, and Croc. And I suppose we'll have to see how it goes at the end of the season.
Are we sleeping on Khan? I was going to say, are we sleeping on Khan? We're not giving enough.
I think to the other end, if we're talking about players that are playing well so far, and if we steer clear of Shael, Croc, Nina, Mark, and Chrissy at this stage, and we want to focus on the rest, who's playing the best game right now? I'm going to say Khan.
I think we're right.
Khan is playing a great game.
We haven't really touched on Khan. He's doing really well.
Yeah.
You know what I love about Khan?
Yeah.
The thing I love about him, and I really enjoyed him in MasterChef because that's one of my other very few reality weaknesses that I have. I love that he's got a snake tattoo around his neck because he is he's the snake and he's got the tattoo to prove it. I love it. He's doing very, very well. I just think he's going to be too big of a threat. He's playing too good, and he's going to whereas say a Nina and a Mark, they are much more in the background. I mean, you see Mark, Nina does this move, and then Mark kind of takes the heat off himself for being a part of that with Andy. And at the end, he says, "You guys did really well on that move," and he takes himself out of it, which is a really nice play by Mark. I don't think Khan has that ability to step back. He's just going to play well, but that target's just going to keep increasing, and he has no ability to take the target off him.
Yeah, there's something to a Survivor where it's like you kind of have to have a few misses occasionally. I don't know how to make sense of it without damaging your game too much, but like if you're constantly scoring W's every single episode, every single time you have the chance to score, it might make you it might be too good of a record to the point where the other players will say, you know what, I think we need to all pile on and get him out before it's too late. Kind of like maybe like a Ricard or something from the latest season of US Survivor where it's like, he's great. We need him for this time, but he's too good for us to take with him to the end. So when it's, I could see him going far though. I could see Khan doing really well. I think he has the makeup to last. He's playing the early game. I think he's played, like you said, the last 3 episodes phenomenally. He's certainly getting a lot of the credit, which is great for him. But yeah, there's always like, at least in Australian Survivor, I always worry like, is this guy playing too early, too good, too early? Kind of like, I don't want to say he's the similar, but it reminds me a little bit of like the rise and fall of, and I don't want to say it really is, but of Joey from last year. He had this like very strong alliance that was controlling the first couple of weeks, and then it just crashed and burned. But I don't feel like Khan is as cocky yet. Joey was very over the top at times. So I don't know.
Khan doesn't have the cockiness to him, but he doesn't. He's got the confidence, I think, and that confidence is going to. unfortunately, like I said, I just win. I get W's, W's, W's. And he's not, the beauty about it is, I mean, when you see it with Nina going, hey, who do you want out? I don't think Khan has that in him. Khan will start to go, I think, and it won't be offensive. It won't be what Bree, I think Bree was doing. We need to get rid of this person. We need to, or what Dave was doing, not commanding, but I think he'll be like kind of saying we need to probably get rid of a Nina or a Mark or whoever he's trying to go after at any point in time. That it's his plan. He doesn't want to let it be someone else's plan. I think that's a big part, especially in our length of a game, to just sit back, just be the puppet master for a little bit. Don't have to control.
Yeah. I think Khan being labeled King Kong already. I think it's going to go. I think it's going to build against him. And Billy, I was thinking the exact same thing. I think Joey is the one I'd liken him to, just in terms of his rise and fall. I can see him actually going in the pre-merge. I can really see it going the other way. I can see him being a Ricard and building that strong game all the way through, and then falling at the end. Almost like a David Wright, Rob Cessanino. All the players we've seen in the past do have fallen just short of the end, despite playing a strong game. But then to the same essence, I think if he gets too much power, I think it can build against him, and he could be one that goes in the pre-merge. Who are we thinking, though, is the next to go? Obviously, we still haven't seen a lot of characters like Jordan and Josh, Mel and Michelle. We did discuss David. I'm going to preface it now. David might be an easy out. But other than David, who do we think is the next to go?
But the easy outs is always where you can move,
Yeah.
What? A Mel
I mean, my
or
thought
Michelle?
was probably David, but I mean, I guess it depends, from each tribe.
Sam's reaction goes back to a bit of how Sam was. That emotional reaction, she might go on a bit of a, we've got to get rid of Dave. Like, she might get so hella focused on her one target that she'll be too hard to work with. And so Sam's days might be numbered personally.
Interesting to see her stand up and go around and pull off that JT Live Tribal blow up. I don't feel like we see that very often in Australian Survivor, or at least this early. I don't know, but to see her do that, and also she's a returning player, so she does have that target on her back, and you don't see Sandra doing that yet. I thought that was very interesting. I didn't love it. Also, I was a little bit worried for Sam when I started seeing this come out, because I'm like, well, she's willing to flip all of the votes on David, and David could easily have an idol. He did have an idol that could have easily blown up in a bad direction. I don't know. I didn't love it. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam, but I also wonder if she's better ingratiated in her tribe than we know. Maybe she has the ability to flip it like that, like it was going to be one vote, and then she decided to pipe up. Whether that's too strong of a power move too early, I don't know.
I think that's more Dave. Dave really imploded.
It might have been Dave.
I think, Soph said it in her confessional thing. She said, "Look, I'm about I don't like what you did to her." I don't think it was Sam just got really emotional and said, "Now I want you out." Not like she just played with her emotions, and she didn't keep level-headed. And I think by doing that, she is also one who wants to get Sandra out. So if I'm going to put Sandra and Sam against each other, I feel like Sandra will outplay Sam very easily with what I just saw in that tribal.
I agree.
Yeah, Margaret bringing up in the chat as well. Kind of sad that 5 people have 0 confessionals, but in Australian Survivor, there's always going to be a few people who get purpled. And I actually think there's going to be a purpled player that's going to go home next. I'm thinking one of Alex and Jay or Mel and Michelle might be the next to go. I might lean towards Alex because he's got a little bit of airtime so far, and he doesn't seem to be too built into the tribe's psyche at the moment socially.
Plus, he's at the top. He's at the top of the alphabet.
As a wild card.
He's an A at the top of the alphabet.
Exactly, yeah. Sean can have strategy all the way through until the end, which would mean who wins in that case? Maybe Shael wins in that case. No, Sophie wins in that case. If it's Sophie wins,
Sophie and Shay.
Yeah,
final two right there.
And Sandra finishes 3rd. There you go.
It's a good finish.
Wow, right at the end.
Just because Sam goes to 4th. Just pips.
Yeah,
I told you Sandra beat Sam.
I think you're right. Like I feel like there's a decent chance that it's like I want to make sense of the dynamics, but I'm also like there's
Mm.
such a huge blob of reds and blues that I don't know. I could not tell you any of these. Like if you told me who Amy is, I don't fully know if I know who Amy is. Has she talked yet?
I think she has had one
seen her.
confessional.
We've seen her say
I don't even know
facial
what color
reactions
her
of
hair
tribal.
is. Okay, is she blonde?
In
No.
the photo,
Are you
it's
googling
brown.
her?
I'm gonna see if I can bring up a confessional count right now.
Okay.
Oh, they have that? Who does this? Who's working away making sure there's a confessional
there's a
count?
lot of people. There's a lot of
Oh,
people.
And
It
you know what, they
happens.
are
They're
great
little
people
like
that
Oompa Loompa gnomes. They're in the background. They do
I
their
need
thing.
them. I don't have any access to any knowledge.
They're
I
very
forget
handy.
everything.
I
All
rely
right.
on that stuff sometimes for data. It's interesting.
Yeah,
My
so here we
God,
go.
look at this.
We have Chrissy
What
leading the
is
charge at the
going on?
moment. And Amy has one confessional, which she got in the first episode. So yeah, Chrissy leading the
I
charge with an
missed that
average of
one.
7 confessionals an episode.
That's very good.
interesting.
Well, Chrissy is really enjoyable. I know there's a lot of people on the Facebook pages not liking how like a lot of super fans hate that she's never seen the game. But if I'm looking at say her versus an Andrew who also never watched the game, give me Chrissy. I'd take like 20 Chrissys out of the 24 cast. She's hilarious. She's so good. She's just good value.
Yeah, Chrissy's great. She's funny, charming, lively,
Yeah.
fresh to the game, which
you
can
don't
be a
need
problem.
strategy.
But it's like it's really not so much like what if they know the game or not. It's just like will they be interesting enough on television, funny,
Yeah.
have a smile on their face, maybe crack a joke or two. That's what you want. It's like you don't have to know the game at all. Like plenty of great Survivor players didn't know the game very well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's great. Look at this.
Yeah, that's interesting though. Like a lot of people are invisible. So I'm like any of those bottom feeders could easily go next, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Hopefully next week we'll get a better idea.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, next week it's going to be very exciting to see.
Amy's, if we see Mel have her flashback of her as a whatever job she does, if she's the chiropractor out of the two twins, if we see that, she's going home. If we get a bit of backstory.
Well, Mel is the chiropractor, so yeah, it could be working against her.
Yeah.
I will say I don't love that they're half the cast is like kind of invisible. I wish there was a better disparity between equal, like whatever. But at the same time, I know they're trying to do what works, and it's tricky.
It's hard to do it.
They're trying to make a narrative,
and you've got to bring it. You've got to really come in like Dave the Golden God and steal as many confessionals.
Oh my God! If there were like 15 of those Daves on a cast, they'd all just be talking over each other and be like,
well, there is one Dave on this cast. Yay! Exclamation point brings it up here. David having no confessionals up until episode 3 and now being 4th in the confessional count. He got 12 confessionals in the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
That's
that means he's going home.
You never know. That might be that might mean he's going home next week. We never know.
And I will say, like, I found him
funny.
I found him pretty interesting this episode 3. I mean, obviously, go figure. He wasn't really in the first 2, but I kind of enjoyed. Like, he's clearly a novice, and he clearly is playing very emotionally, and like that can be fun to watch because it creates this tension, and like he's got tension between him and Khan, which I thought was palpable and made the reward a little bit more of an interesting, memorable moment. And then he goes back to camp and everything just crumbles. And I'm like, on some hand, I get the 12 confessionals. He's talking a lot. He's got a lot of content. And I'm like, I think he could have had some good stuff too in the first 2 if they decided to show him. I know he's not relevant maybe because they didn't go to tribal council, but I think it's like one of those, the argument a lot of the times for players who don't talk is that they're just not very entertaining or interesting. But I'm like, well, I don't know, because David didn't talk, but I actually do find him interesting when he does talk.
Well, yeah, I really enjoyed the moment at the end where he was trying to backtrack. Like, that was hilarious. Can we just forget I said whatever? That was so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, he put his foot in his mouth too much. Like, it was my paranoia. I shot myself in the foot. I'm sorry about that. It's like,
can we move on? Can we work together again?
Right? Like,
loved it.
Can we just forget all that? Cut my confessionals in half. Just ignore this storyline. We'll just go back to voting out Sandra. Leave it at that. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you never know though, because Erica didn't get any confessionals for a while, and people were just counting her in Survivor 41. So who really knows? But yeah, it's going to be a question over the coming weeks. Jenny K here is saying in the chat that the twins were promoted heavily preseason and didn't get any content in week 1. But again, that
I
means
do remember
nothing
that.
enough
I'm like,
Flick on
there's like an
All-Stars
identical
was
pair
promoted
of
in
twins, which
preseason.
is fascinating. They didn't do that in the previous. Well, they had Natalie and Nadia, of course, but I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't know anything about them, and I can't. Also, they look the same, so I can't even tell the difference between who's on which tribe. I don't even know. I think it's it's interesting about that.
I'm sure we'll learn as time goes on, but it's shaping up being an exciting season. I'm loving it so far. Any key points you guys want to discuss before we finish up?
Oh, look, JLP is coming along leaps and bounds, isn't he? I'm a big fan of him as a host. He's getting that's definitely a no. He's not. No, I like him. He's getting good. It's hard to fill a Jeff's shoes.
Yeah, I haven't rewatched the early season, so I can't tell exactly. Like, I very clearly can tell the difference between Jeff in season 1 and 41.
Of course,
which is different. It's almost like on full circle, but JLP he's so chill. He's like he brings a very different vibe. I really do appreciate it, especially contrasting him with his American counterpart, who's just like off the rails. She's like totally lost it. I love Jeff's passion. And sometimes I wish JLP was a little more passionate, like a little more energy, but at the same time, I do think there's such things like too much, and I don't worry about that from JLP. Whereas with Jeff, I'm like, take it easy, man. Like let the cast get crazy. You can be there in the middle of it all. So I like JLP. I don't know. I don't have too much else to add. I'm looking forward to watching more Survivor, and I'm excited. And I wonder, like, do you know if they're going to do a second season this year, like for the end of the year, or is that just like a rumor?
So this is something I'll discuss this now. So ratings for this season so far have been a little bit disappointing to start off with. So they finished second in their time slot on Monday night behind Married at First Sight, which Peridiam. Married at First Sight is huge in Australia. It's like the Super Bowl. Everyone loves it. So potentially make a second channel all about Married at First Sight just for those Aussies. So we're currently
people get married at first sight. Is that what that's about? Like literally,
that's pretty much nailed it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Weddings when they first see each other, first meet, and they get married straight away. So Survivor's still sitting second behind Married at First Sight at the moment. We do have the Winter Olympics coming up next week, so that's going to be a true test for where Survivor stands. I think though, Peridiam, to what you're saying, I think Survivor has now built enough of an audience where it can stand on its own, and we don't need to worry about ratings backing us up.
Right.
But again, it's still up in the air as to whether we will get in a second season this year or not. If we do, though, that'll be great. If we do, it'll probably air around August, I'd imagine, with filming starting in April. So let's cross our fingers and our toes now that we do get a second season this year.
Look, the more seasons there are, the more chances I can get on this damn show. That's all I care about. Keep it going until you can get me on a bloody island.
Robin,
or in the outback. I don't give a shit. Just put me somewhere.
You kind of look a little, like I first saw you, you reminded me a little bit of like a combo of like Rocky and Boston Rob. Like if you had like a Bostonian accent, I wouldn't be surprised.
Rocky from Fiji.
Rocky from Fiji, but like better, and also a little bit of Boston Rob. And you got the look of it. You're from Australia.
Awesome. I'll take that. I'll take that for sure.
It's it's not a bad it's a compliment for sure.
We were meant to get 2 seasons, and I think COVID really slowed that process of 2 seasons down for us, unfortunately. So I don't know if it's coming. I feel like they would have started auditions for the next season if we were going to go into.
Do you guys like that they're filming all in Australia at the moment? Do you want them to go elsewhere, or
I don't mind it actually. I think long term they might even stay in Australia long term just because it's easier. It's not as cheap as Fiji, but I think there's enough variety in the environment in Australia that I can see them staying there long term. I don't mind at all.
When the first season came out, like the first original one where it was in just like south of Adelaide, like in one of our cities, I was really upset because being a huge Survivor fan, and I'm like, what? We can't get out of our own country. You can see the city skyline in the background. I was kind of really annoyed at that because that's not Survivor, and I don't think you could see the city in the background. I don't know. I was 14. I don't know how old I was. I was young and immature, but. I'm actually liking the last 2 seasons set in Australia. I don't mind it. We've got some really awesome places to see. It showcases our country a bit better. Look, I do love a bit of a beach situation, and I do love my Fiji, but I don't mind it.
Okay.
Not my feature.
Yeah,
it's just
I love it.
I don't
I mean,
own it.
I'm a big fan of switching it up. I've been really like, just Fiji itself has lost all. It's like so vanilla for me now, considering we've been there for
Yeah,
like
it's the
5
same.
years in the US. I'm cool with it. Also with like South Africa filming and stuff. I'm like, cool. I've never really seen South Africa, so it's great to
Yeah.
see it in HD.
Yeah,
and
it's great. Love it.
they really did a great job with this. Like Australian Survivor cinematography is by far top of the line, at least for all the other versions in the world.
Yeah, they do a
Like,
good job.
amazing.
So
I
I'm
just take
happy.
screenshots individually from like last season. I'm like, you could easily make any of these a thumbnail. They do a really great job.
Yeah, just backgrounds
Yeah.
of your computer. It's great.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought they could do a season in the snow, but then I forgot that maybe the reason a lot of people watch it is for the eye candy, and we want to be in dudes topless and women in bikinis. But I was like, what
Oh.
happens if there was a snow Survivor season?
I don't know if they would love it because it's like they
Nah.
just sort of huddle around and like their little.
Yeah, it'll be a lot
That's fair.
slower. People not as active. Yeah, I don't think I don't think they'd like it. One, for the advertising point of view, they've said in the past, if people are in bikinis,
People
you know,
watching.
they're
Yeah,
more
I
likely to
didn't
watch it.
notice this as a kid.
And yeah, they're going to be more active when it's sunny. You know, not in the shelter, as Peridiam says.
Yeah,
One last question before we wrap it up. Swim Jacket in the chat has said, what do you think the theme of the next season would be? Assuming Australian Survivor gets another season, and we still got this one to get through, but after that, what do we
3
think?
days in. Look, do they do? Because I like, as much as I love the blood versus water, it's still kind of, there's a bit of fans versus favorites in this element as well. We've got old returning players. We've got Sandra, we've got Mark, we've got Sam, we had Andy, we've got Khan, who's a MasterChef person. There's still a heavy element of people who are personalities. I feel like we might throw off fans versus favorites, but I don't want that because I mean we've just had so many returnees. I don't know what else.
I mean, you could easily see CVC 3, BVW 2.
Yeah.
Lovers Water again. Bring them back.
Yeah.
Roll back.
Yeah, I feel like
the
they could do
tapes.
that.
Millennials versus
Or they
Gen
do
X.
some, they could do generations. Maybe that would be. I would honestly be interested to see like 3 tribes of like generations, maybe just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
You know, see what that looks like. Younger generation, middle, older.
Yeah.
I've always thought that in Australia, Peridiam, we're very segmented along states, especially during COVID. I've always thought an Australian Survivor state of origin, so state versus state, New South Wales, Queensland, and then combined Victoria, South Australia, WA tribe.
Whoa!
Like
why are you combining us? Hey,
New South Wales and Queensland. New South Wales and Queensland versus the smaller states. It needs to be figured out because you can't have 5
this
states.
rivalry is already happening here.
But,
oh my god!
But something like a north versus south versus east versus west.
So is Tasmania a location? Do they get anyone? Is that not a thing?
Tasmania have had one contestant. Tasmania have had one contestant throughout Australian Survivor, and that castaway went on to win the game. That being Shane.
The old ones? Oh, Shane.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Tasmania have a 100% win streak at this stage.
Wow. Damn. Yeah, they could do that. I always wondered, like, U.S. Survivor should do like a regions. Like that would definitely be. I would be interested in that. I'm like, why not? So hey,
that'd be cool. Regions.
I know they had like this season of Australian Survivor. It looks like there's a lot of people from. Is it Queensland and
Queensland?
Victoria and it seems like that's it. I think.
Yeah.
You don't see many
they're
West
all
Australians.
saying. They all say QLD on Wiki. I don't know much about Australia, unfortunately.
Last year there wasn't many Victorians because we were in the worst lockdown in the world, so you couldn't get out of our state. But I think we've got a few more Victorians playing this time around.
There's a handful, looks like. And then there's just nobody from the other side, I think. Although maybe that's to be expected. I don't know.
That's all COVID, but regardless. Thank you very much for joining us today on the podcast, guys. Peridiam, what have you got coming up on your channel at the moment? You just posted a new video today.
I did. Looking at Easter eggs in Survivor, just more of them, little moments that are you probably might miss if you weren't paying attention. But new video every Wednesday. Next week, actually, it's like interesting timing. Next week. Okay, so I'm looking into doing 1 of 2 videos for next week. I'm either going to be doing either just a challenge hacks video, which is pretty big because those tend to do really well, or I'm going to talk about times where the producers broke their own rules in U.S. Survivor, or let rules get broken. Just let players get away with it because it makes for good TV, even though it goes against the rules in the rule book. which we have. It was leaked like 10 years ago. So you can see all the rules that are in US Survivor. They may have changed them. Interestingly enough, like the one rule that they have, the one rule to rule all the other rules is that the producers can change the rules whenever they want. So it's kind of like it's kind of oxymoronic to be like the producers broke the rule when their rule is that they can break the rule. You know, they like can't. They literally have it in there where they cannot break their own rules. So there's that, but whatever. But yeah, that's what I've got coming up next week. I'm looking forward to throwing them under the bus a little bit.
Fantastic. Right. And Celebrity Big Brother coming up as well. You'll be covering that?
Actually, I don't know if I'm going to or not. I'm going to be watching it. Actually, the live feeds are going up later today. So I'll be excited because I'm a big fan of the US version of Big Brother. It's basically Survivor in a house. I don't know if you guys have ever watched it. Not as compelling in some senses. It's definitely not as much of an adventure. It's more of like a social adventure with crazy, kooky, eccentric people just tearing each other's faces off for 21 days with a bunch of zealous celebrities this time. I'm not as hyped for it, but I'm still excited because it's still a social strategic game and I get to watch it live at a snail's pace, which kind of is exciting. I stay up super late for them. I'll be up until 5 a.m. my time watching. That's just how it is. Wow. I was going to make a video talking about that for next week, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to keep with Survivor. I'm going to make a Big Brother video talking about Big Brother Canada 2 weeks from now. So that's another thing that I'm doing. But yeah, that's mostly but Celebrity Big Brother's happening. Big Brother Canada is coming up, which I'm excited for. Those seasons, that was my favorite season last year. Just beat out Australian Survivor. For my favorite reality show last year was a Big Brother Canada.
Big Brother Canada is so great. And actually for Australian viewers, I think Big Brother Canada has just become available on 7+.
Has it?
There's a nice little segue there. So yeah, Big Brother Canada. I believe they put up season 8, which were great season.
They put up season 8?
Lots of great. Yeah, season 8. Was that season 8 last? Was that Kiefer's season?
No, that's season 9.
Okay, season 9. Sorry, yeah. Okay,
season 8 got canceled due to COVID.
Season 8, I enjoyed season 8. Min Lee and all the chaos that happened there.
It's just I'm like, wow, if they give you that one season, that's like the biggest.
Yeah, no,
season
it
doesn't even have an
season
ending.
9 is up there.
Oh, really? They just stopped.
They cut it off a third of the way into the season. All the people just left because of COVID. They didn't finish it. So it's like, it's just not. But they're releasing it to the US audience in 2 weeks. For the first time ever. So I'm like, Americans can now watch it if they wanted to. Before you couldn't do that. So I'm going to do similar to what I did with Australian Survivor with my audience. I'm going to make an announcement. If people want to watch it in the US, they can. It's now there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. It'll be about a month or so. And then US Survivor's coming back too. So
that's right. It's all happening. And we'll put a link in the description to your channel, Peridiam. If you haven't already checked him out, I think you're 120,000 subscribers now?
Yeah, something like that.
2001. I will subscribe today.
Is it? I appreciate it. I will give you VIP status right now.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and if you haven't already, and you wanted to get us to 120,000 subscribers, be sure to subscribe to Reality Pop. Next week, we will have a former Australian Survivor alumni who competed in Champions vs Contenders 2 and All Stars. I'm going to see if you can guess who it is. They're famous for lying about.
Wait till
lying about a member of the family. It being Harry Hills will be on the podcast with us next week. So certainly stay tuned for that one. Really looking forward to that one. And we'll see you guys next week for Australian Survivor Blood vs. Water Week 2. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and catch you later. Bye.